first person that we have speaking is Matt Grylls. He is our managing editor of the American Legion magazine. And he will be speaking on best practices to using the American Legion style guide. So he's going to share those tools with us right now.
Morning, everyone. I hope that you're having a great time in Milwaukee. I'm down here in Indianapolis, so greetings to you. I can't see you, but I hear that it is a packed room, so that is really exciting. And I hope that you guys have a absolutely fantastic day of training. We'll get my thing out of the way so you can move on to all the really good stuff. Um, but I'm excited to talk to you, all of you, for a few minutes this morning about what we call the publication style guide, which is something I put together a few years ago just to help our staff. And as it evolves, and I am in the middle of updating it, I hope that it becomes a tool that all of you can use as well to make sure that your writing is as clear, as concise, and consistent as possible, like across the board, wherever the Legion is, that we all kind of approach certain terms and phrases and names of our programs all the same, so that audiences are really see that we're all on the same page. So, with that said, just as a background, I've been with the American Legion for 22 years now. I started off at the magazine as assistant editor, then moved up to associate editor, and I've been the managing editor for about 13 years. So while I have been there, I have, eh, I guess you could say that the style or the way that we communicate in our writing, I kind of just adapted that as my it's my wheelhouse basically. And so I take calls from not just staff members but people all over from all over the building at headquarters saying, how would I say this, or do I capitalize this, or when is this lowercase, or whatnot. And so I enjoy what I do very much, and hopefully we'll have the opportunity for some questions too. So the first thing I want to do is just introduce you to the publication style guide. I actually have my printed version here, and this is currently what the cover of it looks like. But as I said, we're in the middle of updating it. I have been working on the update for longer than I really wanted to. It's something I have to kind of do in my spare time between issues of the magazine, and but I am aiming to have it done within the next month or so. But if you have never used this or even seen it or heard of it, where you can find it is online at legion.org/publications. And if you scroll down to media and communications, it's right there. It's listed under as publication style guide. You can click on it, download it, print it, and share it. That's the most important thing. Anyone who is doing any kind of writing or editing for the American Legion, the Post newsletter, the department newsletter, anything at all. And that goes for the American Legion family as well, auxiliary sons. I encourage you to use this. What I did largely was uh, a lot of it comes from the AP style book, the Associated Press style book, but there's also several things in here that I put in there myself because we differ from AP in a few significant ways on as far as language goes. Now, over the past 22 years, I've seen changes in the way the AP handles some terms, whether that's uh, how they refer to race or gender, or just even removing hyphens from some terms or adding hyphens, things like that. So by and large, we try to stick with AP style. And the reason why is because AP style is fairly easy to understand, and it just, you've got to have some system. If everybody is using their own, what they think is the right way to label a person or organization or term, and everybody's using their own version. Quickly, communication becomes a nightmare, and for audiences, that is not fun. As I said, we really all want to be on the same page, but we all have different backgrounds as far as writing and editing goes, and we all have, some people really like that Oxford comma. Those of us who use AP style have kind of we don't really use it, but uh, more or less, it's just helpful, but again, to have all of us working from the same sheet of music because that makes communication go well. And as I've talked with our Jim Triola, who's going to be he's our leading candidate for national commander. One thing that he told me several times as I interviewed him is that just we really need to up our communication game with members. The Legion does, I think, a great job, but it can always be better. Communication is key, and there's we have social media, we have the website, uh, and then of course we have the magazine, we have the dispatch and other media channels. But uh, in most, if not all of those cases, people are reading something that we have put together. And when people are reading, uh, they don't like coming across, you know, a word that's spelled two different ways in the same paragraph, or one newsletter capitalizes the word post when it's used in a generic sense, and then the magazine does not. And it makes us look a lot sharper and a lot smarter when we're all doing the same thing. So, a word about the AP style book, actually, while I have it here beside me. They update this at least every couple of years, and you can buy this online or order it from, say, Barnes and Noble. You can sometimes find copies at used bookstores too. So this is, I think, the latest one. They're putting another one out. So we also have. You can also buy online, like an online AP style book subscription. And so I highly recommend it. It is chock full of all kinds of great stuff. And when I say great, I mean people like me who this is our what I do for fun is language. So, um, but the publication style guide, essentially what I've done is taken the stuff that we care about the most as American Legion communications professionals and boiled it down to the essentials and put it all in the publication style guide. So again, I'm updating this, so look for that in the next, I really hope the next 30 days. And and I'll just say this: I would like to, and I hope it'd be helpful for all of you, maybe in the Talma group on Facebook, as well as Talma newsletters. Occasionally throw some stuff in there from our style guide, just to kind of, maybe it might be some helpful hints for the week, things like that. But if you'd like to kind of see a little more material from our style guide show up in the resources that Tama is giving you, please let us know. I think maybe that'd be a great thing. So I'll move on to a couple of things. One, again, why we use the style guide. Two reasons: consistency and clarity. Consistency is, again, all of us on the same sheet of music. Clarity is clear writing. If people are confused by what they're reading, they will stop reading. They will not care anymore. And in fact, beyond that, they'll say, I don't want to read that magazine. I found a couple of mistakes in it, and, this paragraph, the sentence was run on, or whatnot. And so it's really, I'm sorry, did I just mute myself by accident? Have you heard me up until this point? All of a sudden, I just had a really, really bad feeling that I've been talking to myself. All right, let me cool off for a second. Whew, man. Okay. All right. So, uh, things that I correct the most. I really have a short list here. The things that I honestly uh, correct the most. It's hard to describe because I get in there to magazine copy or anything else I'm editing, and I just, well, for lack of a better term, it's like open heart surgery. Sometimes I just put on my gloves and I get in there and I mess around with the words until I feel like it's clear and smooth. But in the course of my work, what I have seen that I correct quite a bit, I'll start with this one. And this is something that I hope that you all pick up on too. Um, the American Legion. It all starts with our name. So, the American Legion. The is capitalized when you say the American Legion. You're talking about the organization, the American Legion. Now, if you are saying the American Legion Convention in Milwaukee, would you capitalize the? I see people say, yes, they should. And I say, we do not. I will get in there and I will lowercase the t because you are not talking about the organization proper. You're talking about the convention. So you will lowercase the. Same thing with the American Legion baseball program, the American Legion writers, the American Legion um, Auxiliary, the American Legion Legacy Scholarship. Like the list goes on and on. And I mentioned that in the publication style guide. Um, don't capitalize the unless you're talking about the organization itself. So that is one thing that that's probably the thing I fix the most. And I'm not afraid to change it in anybody's copy, no matter how high above me they are. I'll probably get in trouble for that. So the other thing that I see a lot is global war on terrorism. Uh, I see this capitalized quite a bit. Doesn't really matter if we capitalize it. I think I've seen veterans post 9/11 vets. They'll often well, usually you hear them referred to as post 9/11 vets, or they'll among themselves even say GWAT, whatever. But global war on terrorism, in our copy in the magazine, we do not uppercase it. And the reason why is um, global war on terrorism is a really broad term, like really broad. You have 20 plus years, you have dozens of major and minor operations worldwide. You're not talking about necessarily, and while World War II was broad too, global war on terrorism it was a very different thing. And so we lowercase it. We do not consider that to be a proper a proper name. So we do use the term global war on terrorism, but we don't uppercase it. So uh, another one that I focus on is, and I see it a lot, is retired Major General Joe Smith, and people capitalize retired. Um, I don't capitalize it. We should not capitalize it because it is not actually part of the rank. So therefore, it does not need capital. In fact, I prefer kind of mention later on in the copy that the person is retired. But if you are going to put retired in there, do not capitalize retired unless you're starting the sentence. Don't capitalize retired before the rank, and especially do not put Major General, comma RET period, comma. Because people may not remember or may not understand what that means. Which let me just uh, go on a small little tangent for a second about um, we in the American Legion and the American Legion family, we're full of veterans. Some people who are still serving and their families, and so there is such a familiarity where there with military terminology and titles. uh, that it would be easy to understand why we would want to uh, uh, use certain terms in certain ways uh, because we're familiar with them. But we also want to remember that we are an organization that is very community focused, and we interact with people who are not connected to the military or to veterans every day because we advocate for veterans, we advocate for service members. So as we're doing that, we need to remember that some of the terms we use as veterans, as people who were or are serving, may not be familiar, and probably are not familiar to that audience. Um, and even let's say you have a Vietnam vet uh, at a post, and then you have a post 9/11 vet. Just even the differences in military terminology between those generations is significant. You know, one will use certain acronyms for things that they saw or worked on in the service. That the other one would be like, I don't know what you're talking about. So so a lot you have to kind of shed the scales of some of that military abbreviations and other terminology that you have, and remember uh, that the important thing is to make things clear. Sometimes you just have to spell it out, or even assume readers know less than maybe they actually do. The important thing is just to be clear. So um, the other thing, this is a one I see a lot, is taps. People like to capitalize, but we do not capitalize taps because it's not a, a song. It is it's a bugle call. And so and the actual name of it has never, it's not capitalized. So that's one too to that I catch a lot. One more that I'll mention is just service abbreviations, like USMC, USAF. We avoid those and just say Air Force, Marine Corps. I think most people know, most if not all people know what those abbreviations are, but sometimes it can just make copy really, really clunky. And so why not just say Air Force? So another thing that and I can we can shift to questions here in a second, but when it comes to veterans in our own copy, when we're talking about a post member, an American Legion post member, or a veteran, oftentimes their service branch doesn't appear anywhere in the story, and I always want to include it. So if you're interviewing someone, or you do a Q&A with someone, or you're even mentioning someone in a photo caption, a post member, they're every legionnaire I've ever met has been very proud of their time in the service, and so I think it's always important to just where you can put that in there. If you're saying post 458 member Jane Smith, you might also say, in the next sentence, or even in that sentence, an Air Force veteran. You don't have to necessarily say the years, and not even necessarily an era, but it is really good if you can put the service branch in there. I think that's helpful, and that it honors their service. So um, that's most of the stuff I wanted to say as far as things that I catch a lot. I will, before I open it up for questions, actually, and hopefully I'll be able to hear them. Cameron may need to relay your questions to me, and hopefully have answers. If not, I'll try my best. A word about race. This is something where AP language has really uh, the AP style has changed just a little bit. I think a couple of years ago, they shifted from using black in the lowercase to uppercase. And in while we don't follow all of AP style, we follow most of it. And on this one, we are going ahead and following that. We also may use the term African American. That is no longer hyphenated. It's just two words, African American. Um, But usually, I think unless it's an organization name, you would not use the term, say, uh, uh, Negro or African American if it is, unless it is part of an organization name. Generally, you would use uppercase uh, for the term Black. As far as people from a Spanish speaking background or land, you would use Latino. So hopefully that's helpful. But in general, when it comes to race or ethnic background, we refer to or whatever the latest AP style guidance is on that. It's just helpful. And I think generally easy to follow. For those of us who have been there a long time and that wasn't how we did it before, it's a bit of a transition. But it's okay. That's just kind of the way that the language and use of language has moved. So when it comes to, and I know we have many Legionnaires who are Native Americans or American Indians. You can use either one of those terms, but I would highly suggest you find out specifics if you're talking about them. Find out what tribe they belong to, and mention that. So always be specific. And in the end, the best piece of advice I can give you is go with a person's preference. Don't be afraid to ask their preference. In matters like this, sensitivity is okay, and we want to get it right. So so that's just a word about that. So I'll go ahead and I probably have given myself way too much time for questions, but I enjoy talking about style, and maybe all of you, some of you, one of you has a question or a thought. Maybe there's something that you would like to see in our publication style guide that I could take some notes here and see how I it. If it's something that I haven't considered, but it would be helpful for you, I would like to have it in there. So I'll go ahead and get my pen and paper and be ready to take some notes here. But Cameron, I'm more than happy to field some questions.
Matt, has there ever been a consideration to combine the publication guide with the visual style guide? So it's
Uh,
one guide?
you know, No, we have not really talked about that. It's possible. The publication style guide really just focuses strictly on just language, but I'm willing to look at that. I'm all for consolidating stuff. What I want to avoid is kind of a big fat you know, document that would take people 100 pages to print off. But at the same time, I love the idea that it would be something hopefully that's searchable, maybe just quick digital click through, something like that. But that is a interesting idea that I am happy to explore.
Good morning, everybody. Uh, Matt, couple questions. Our readers, most of it are member of the armed forces, so we all used to acronyms, uh, so-called abbreviations. The use of acronyms is okay? And also, when you use the rank of the individual, like Master Sergeant John Doe, after the name, is that okay to put it in parentheses the branch of service, U.S. Army or Marines or Air Force? Thank you.
When it comes to titles, I actually prefer to put the branch of service before the rank. So, Army Major General Joe Smith. That's how I would, rather than putting it after or in parentheses, we tend to put it before. Um, same thing with, I also try to, by the way, like say a Vietnam War veteran. I always try to get the service in there, and I'll say like, Vietnam War Army veteran or Vietnam War Marine Corps veteran Joe Smith. The We actually do have a section in here on military titles, as well as just the service branches. All of that is in here. What was the first one you mentioned, sir? I'm sorry, it came before
Yes,
the titles.
the use
Acronyms. You were talking about
acronyms,
the
yes.
acronyms,
Is
right?
that okay?
Yes.
Like,
Yes. So first, with the titles, we have that section here, and we show kind of the preferred way to abbreviate them. I know in the military, oftentimes all of the title is it's abbreviated, but it's all caps. Say G, capital E, capital N for general, and so forth. That we don't do that. It's just GEN period. As far as acronyms, I include quite a few abbreviations and acronyms in the back that I see us using the most, and I have asterisks beside the ones that you don't need to spell out because they're so commonly used. We all know what they are. Say AMVETS, CIA, things like that. But as far as acronyms in the military, more often than not, I would spell them out just because of wanting to avoid confusion for people. Let's say, U.S. Army Europe. I have seen people put in copy, U.S. uh, AREUR, all in caps. And when I first came to the Legion, and for several years afterward, I had to always go and look that up. I thought I knew what it meant, but I wanted to make sure. But that's just a long string of letters. It's alphabet soup. And so it's good to just say, U.S. Army Europe, troops with U.S. Army Europe or whatever. So I would say acronyms, they're they're probably okay to use maybe on second reference, but generally spell them out on first reference unless it's something that really you hear about all the time, like the IRS. You can just say IRS on first reference, but military acronyms in particular, I would at least spell it out at first, and then if you're talking about it several more times, you could use the acronym after that.
Good morning, and to dovetail on what this gentleman asked, how do we handle Legion titles? For instance, if we are addressing, or let's say Joe Smith, ALR Chairman, 5th District, Florida, or 5th District Department of Florida, would that be proper, or is it title first, then name, or do we not use the full title? I mean, that's always been an item of wonderment for me.
Okay. I do talk about titles in the style guide, maybe not in that specific way. I think I, mentioned like now, when you should, if you're using it before a name, you capitalize the title. If you're using the title after the name, like Joe Smith, who is the commander of Post 4 or 5, you would not uppercase commander there. In a title like the one you mentioned, you know, uh, chairman of the American Legion Writers from this district, that could get really clunky really quickly if it's all before a name. And generally, if it's, more than 3 or 4 words that come before a name, I don't want to lose the name amidst all the words. And so I would tend to shift the title after the name. In fact, a lot of times I just prefer to start with a name unless it's something short like national commander or president. But I think the most helpful rule to follow is just uppercase it before a name, afterward lowercase it. Uh, but if there's more than 3 or 4 words that come before the person's name when you're giving them a title, you might consider moving that after their name. Just you know, because there's all kinds of ways you can write around it. Sorry, my cat's hopping on the table here. There's all kinds of ways that you can write around that. And you can even, let's say they have 2 titles or even 3. You want to mention that they are a Gulf War veteran. You know, there's all kinds of things you want to put in there about that person. You can kind of sprinkle that throughout the paragraph and just kind of give them, you know, one title at first, or again, just mention their name and then say after that what their title is. Hopefully that helps.
Can you hear me okay? One more.
Sure.
Have you considered to have a link on, for instance, in the Stars and Stripe or Army Time, Air Force Time, newspapers, so there's more visibility of the magazine, because having visibility is what gather members. So a link, and maybe in Stars and Stripes, perhaps will help to bring more members as well reader for the magazine.
I do know that we for some time have had a relationship with Stars and Stripes, and there was some content sharing going on between our websites, and so I'm not sure if maybe that's what you mean, but I think where we can, you know, promote or include, you know, one another's work, that's always a good thing.
Any other questions? Thank you, Matt, for your time this morning. Greatly appreciate that.
Sure. Any other questions? I don't know if I've gone over too long or too short.
Any other questions? Nope. Okay. Thank you, Matt. Really appreciate it.
No problem. And again, I am sorry for if any of you have been waiting for the updated style guide. I apologize for the wait, and we are working on that, and hopefully we'll have a brand new, fresh one posted within the next few weeks. And we'll make sure that we alert all of you with Talma so that you can get on and check it out. But thanks, and again, never hesitate to email me. If you have any kind of, you know, style questions, I am more than happy to talk to everyone out there about how to just make our editing and writing smoother. So thank you guys for being there. Thank you for all that you do to help get the word out about the American Legion in a really clear, fun way. So I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me this morning.
Thanks, Matt.